Okay, I wanted to show you how I prepare the feed that's fermented on a daily basis. So this is the bucket that I had the feed in that we just gave to the chickens. And so all I do, it's very simple, just take the water, fill the bucket up about halfway. And then all I do, oops, let me grab, I guess the lid's over here. So I then come over here to my dry seed, scratch grains, and I put 4 scoops. This is a little scooper that I've got, and I just put 4 scoops in. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. And I just base that on the number of birds that I have. And, you know, it's trial and error if you need 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10. I don't know. And your bucket size may change. I just use a little 1-gallon bucket. And so, you know, you remember that the 1 was there in the front, and then I had 2 and 3. So what I'll do is I'll just move 2 and 3 down. Just kind of move them down so that I know that tomorrow I'm going to start with 2. And the next day I'll do 3. So they're on a 3-day rotation. And then all I do is just put the lid on. I don't even, you know, I just put it on and just kind of push down. I don't actually, you know, let it go all the way down. You could, I guess, but I like to make sure that it's at least, you know, on there firmly, but not, you know, not pressed all the way down. And that's all I do. And then those will ferment for 3 days. It'll ferment for 3 days, and in 3 days I'll be ready to use 1 again. So it's just a little rotation system that I have. And like I said, you know, that little bit of feed will help them to maintain their health, their digestive health. And then I mentioned to you that I use yogurt. So here's the yogurt that I have. And, you know, I'll just take, it's just plain non-fat yogurt, you know, non-flavored. You don't want anything flavored or with a lot of fat or a lot of sugar. So I just get plain yogurt, and I give them about, I put about 3 scoops, you know, healthy spoonfuls in one of those buckets about every 3rd day is just what I do, so that it gives them a little bit extra. And I'll mix it in really well so that every bit of seed is kind of coated. And again, I've drained the water first, and then I add the yogurt. And then this bucket here, and this is another video I'm going to show you, I actually also raise mealworms. And mealworms are essentially a larval stage of a beetle called a darkling beetle. And it's a very popular supplement for chickens because it's got, and for fish and for a lot of other animals, because it's got a lot of protein. And you can buy it commercially. There's a company that makes it that, you know, that has something that's called, you know, Flock Party mealworms, and they're just freeze-dried mealworms. You can see them in the bag there. But I decided that instead of paying money to buy that, I was going to raise my own mealworms so that I would always have a constant supply for my chickens. And so I'm going to show you the mealworm farm in another video. But what I do is when I'm harvesting my mealworms, I will harvest them, and to prevent them from turning into a pupa, which is the stage before it becomes a beetle, I will actually arrest the development by putting them in the fridge. And that's a very known thing that you can do. It basically slows down the mealworm's life cycle, and it kind of goes into hibernation until they're ready to be consumed by the chickens. And so once the mealworms get to a certain size, I will put them in here. And you can see there's a lot of beetles in here too, because these are dead beetles from my colony. But I'm going to see if I can find some of the mealworms. There you go. Those are some of the mealworms, and you might see them kind of move around a little bit. You know, they get lethargic in the fridge, but they're still alive. And you know, there's one moving right there. They're still alive, but they're kind of in a state of suspended animation. And so what I will also do is I will add that to the chicken feed, the fermented feed, in the morning. Sometimes, you know, I'll add it to the feed if I need to, if I feel like the amount of bugs out there that the chickens are pecking at are not sufficient, or if it's really cold and they just, you know, they're not getting out and foraging for themselves. This is a great protein supplement to give them to make to make them stay healthy and not stress them out too much. So that's another thing that I do to do my feed for my chickens. And I think with that, it's a lot of information, I know, but I think that's pretty much the sum total of what I do for my chickens. And again, I'll show you the mealworm farm in a separate video, and then maybe we'll move on to the cattle eventually.